Hello everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Telegraph Herald. More in the Score, Prep Football, Friday Night Countdown Edition. I am the head coach of More in the Score, calling the plays from the sideline, the one and only Coach Ortman. Alongside me, this young whippersnapper, Tim O'Neill. Tim, how's it going?
Good, Coach. Thanks.
That felt really nice. Thank you. Anyways, very special edition of More in the Score this week. We are looking ahead to a couple of gigantic high school football games coming up on Friday night, and it starts with the big one, the huge game of the week, the whole enchilada, the big stack of pancakes, that huge plate of nachos that you just can't wait to dive into. Tim, we're talking the state football championship rematch, Western Dubuque, Cedar Rapids Xavier, on the frozen tundra of Buckman Field this Friday night. Tell us all about it, buddy.
I kind of want some nachos after
Who doesn't?
that. Anyway,
Good play. Nachos on 3. Break.
Class 3A, number 1, Western Dubuque hosting number 2, Cedar Rapids Xavier. Both teams enter 6-0, 2-0 in Class 3A District 4. Like Steve said, it's a rematch of last year's state championship game this year. Both teams very similar statistically. You look at what these teams are doing coming into this game. Xavier is averaging 35 points per game and has outscored its last two opponents 94-20. Western Dubuque, meanwhile, is averaging 35.8 points per game and has outscored its last two opponents 81-14. Now, defensively, both teams shine on that side of the ball. Xavier is allowing 7.6 points per game, has posted 3 shutouts, including a 42-0 victory last week over Dubuque Wahlert. Western Dubuque defensively, a little bit better, 6.5 points per game. They have just 1 shutout, but in 3 games they have kept their opponents out of the end zone, including one of those. It was a 21-3 victory over then number 3 ranked North Scott. A very impressive victory for the Bobcats. WD has allowed only 19 combined points over its last 4 games. So this one, entering, it looks like it could be a high-scoring affair, but it also looks like it could be a low defensive slugfest. You know, a couple of years ago, these teams played in Cedar Rapids, and Xavier won a 7-6 game. I wouldn't be surprised if it turned into something like that again. So it'll be interesting to see how this one turns out.
No, I can't call that audible. We need Tim to talk. Sorry. Okay, I should mention we have a beautiful background, by the way, too. Made it a second week in a row. Maybe someday we'll get our studio back. But anyways, key players to watch in this huge matchup.
Well, anytime you're talking about Western Dubuque, you're going to start with quarterback Calvin Harris.
No!
Yes, Calvin Harris.
What?
Yes.
Calvin Harris?
Yes, go figure. Big surprise, right?
Jeez. Yeah, surprised me there.
So
Okay.
Harris is 8th in Class 3A in passing yards. He's thrown for 1,202 yards so far. He has 15 touchdown passes. He's 3rd in Class 3A in that. He is one of only 2 quarterbacks in Class 3A to have thrown more than 5 touchdown passes without an interception. So he's having a fantastic season, completing just about 70% of his passes. The rest of the WD offense, you look at Jay Kosh, he's a 2-way star for the Bobcats. He leads them with 410 rushing yards and 5 touchdowns. Mm-hmm. Also mans a critical spot at linebacker on the defense. And then Will Birds has been a star at receiver for the Bobcats, having a phenomenal season. When you look at Xavier, the guy they're going to have to stop, running back Jack Lux has run for 418 yards and 4 touchdowns. Xavier still likes to throw it a little bit, but they graduated their star quarterback from last year, so maybe a little bit of a different look for the Saints on offense this year.
You just love the storylines in this one. State championship game. Harris exits obviously early. Never know what would happen in that one. Saints pull it out. Now the top 2 ranked teams in the state got to come up, meet in Epworth. Bobcats at the Trot to get a little revenge. I know it's a new season, but you got to think it's weighing on their minds just a little bit what happened last year.
You know that this is one that the Bobcats want to get back, but it's also one that they know that as long as they take care of business, this probably isn't the only time that they're going to face Xavier this year. They're probably going to be on a collision course in the playoffs again if both teams make it. So, it's an important game. This will probably decide the district champion, but you can't put too much importance on it. It is just another game.
Mm-hmm. What? I said wedge it! 4th and 8, yeah, wedge it up the middle. Okay, now switching gears here. That is not the only big game we have coming up this Friday night. obviously the headliner, but also right in town, we've got another main event. We have got Dubuque Senior versus Dubuque Hempstead. Where do they play and who's the home team?
They play at Dalzell, Steve.
Oh, yes, Dalzell. Uh-huh.
And Hempstead is actually the home
So
team.
Senior is not the home team at Dalzell?
Senior, technically this week, no, Senior is not the home team at Dalzell.
Weird. Anyway, tell us about this matchup because these two teams have both been playing pretty well.
Yeah, they both have, but unfortunately for one of them, Hempstead, it's a couple of heartbreaking losses the past 2 weeks, and that's really kind of the difference in where the season's at right now. Hempstead enters 2-4 overall, 0-2 in Class 4A District 3. And you mentioned the heartbreaking losses 2 weeks ago. They were going in for the potential game-winning touchdown at number 2 ranked Cedar Falls. They got stopped on 4th and goal at the 1-yard line, lost 21-17. Last week, they scored a potentially game-tying touchdown in the closing seconds of the game, decide to go for 2 and the win. They get stopped just short again, suffer a 28-27 loss at Cedar Rapids Prairie. So this is a really important game for the Mustangs to try and keep their playoff hopes alive. If they lose this one, it's going to be tough for them to make it into the postseason. But the way they've been playing lately should have them confident, and it's going to be hard to pick this one. You know, both teams are averaging 27.8 points per game, and Senior offensively has been getting it done. So it'll be really interesting to see how this one goes. When you look at Senior, you know, I mentioned they're both averaging 27.8 points per game. The Rams are coming off a 28-14 win over Waterloo West. They played Cedar Rapids Prairie 2 weeks ago, lost 43-40, and that was the Rams' highest scoring output in about 2 or 3 years. You talk about what the Rams have done. They've really done a solid job throwing the ball. And so, it'll be interesting to see how this one goes.
It's going to be an interesting matchup. You don't want to, I don't know if you can label it a must-win, but this is a game that I think Hempstead's really going to come out and play well. And Senior's been playing well almost all year, it seems like. Key players you're looking for in this one?
Well, it goes without saying, based on what Senior's done the last couple of weeks, it's going to be quarterback Tommy Casey and receiver Kendrick Watkins-Hogue. Both players lead Class 4A in their respective categories. Watkins-Hogue has 41 receptions, tops in 4A, 869 yards, also tops in 4A, and his 7 touchdowns are second in the classification. He has 305 more receiving yards than any other Class 4A receiver. You look at Tommy Casey, he's thrown for 1,447 yards. That's number 1 in 4A. He's tied for third with 11 touchdowns, and that connection has been really strong all year. The Rams really got it moving. And the running back, Kane McWilliams, has run for 651 yards and 5 touchdowns. You know, as we look at Hempstead, Hempstead for years has been a ground-based running team, but the last few weeks they've started to air it out a little bit more, and Aiden Dunn has really done a nice job leading that offense for the Mustangs. He has thrown for 859 yards and 7 touchdowns. He's also run for 360 yards and 4 touchdowns. I'm pretty sure he's the Mustangs' leading rusher. And he's coming off a big game last week against Prairie. He threw for 311 yards and 4 touchdowns.
All right. Well, a couple of fantastic ball games coming up on Friday night. We can't wait to cover them for you. Tim, you're going to be at Western Dubuque and Xavier. I'll be right there at Dalzell Field to cover Hempstead and Senior. You'll get all the coverage there on the Telegraph Herald website as well as in our print edition on Saturday. Now, this has been a great preview show, obviously. I've been running it beautifully. But in a sweet bit of irony, our producer, Paul, is so busy next week that to our loyal fans, there will not be an episode of More Than the Score next week. So look for us back here 2 weeks from now for another episode. But don't wait. You don't have to miss out on us breaking down all the awesome action from these high school football games. This Friday night, you can go to our Telegraph Herald Sports Facebook page, give us a like, and we will have our Telegraph Herald Friday Night Football Recap on Facebook Live. This Friday night, they go on around 11 p.m. They'll be right on there. You can watch them live. And if it's past your bedtime and you can't stay up that late to join us, they don't just have to be watched live. You can go right back on our page. You can watch them Saturday morning, Saturday afternoon, Sunday. They're always there.
Always.
It's a great deal. So check us out. We'll break down all the action from these games, Facebook Live on TH Sports Facebook page, Friday night. And a reminder, not an episode of More Than the Score next week. All right. I think we did it. Good job. All right, kneel it out. Yep. Good job. Kneel it out. Do the old Bill Belichick. Take it. Yeah, everyone. Good episode. Good job. That's going to do it for this week's edition of Telegraph Herald. More in the score. Man, my voice sounds really loud now with the I am your host, Steve Ortman. For Tim O'Neill, we'll see you next week.